You're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me. I got Samuel Joseph from Hello Forever. Excellent band, just re-released their record, whatever it is, on Rough Trade Records. Fascinating band. They live in California on a part of land formerly used by a nudist colony. He's an interesting guy, as you're about to hear. They're constantly writing and recording material there. We talk about this on this episode. We also talk about his stint working at Capitol Records, doing a data tagging project, selling solar panels and working at a farmer's market after that, before getting a publishing deal and setting up Hello Forever just over a year ago, and how that's all come together, as well as an excellent story from Sundance, where he got beefed by Hillary Clinton's bodyguards. So that's all to come on today's episode of 101 Part-Time Jobs. If you like this podcast, please share it around. You really help me get more guests and speak to more fascinating people. So cheers for supporting the podcast. Any sharing you can do. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. Go and tell people about it. East London's Signature Brew have been brewing music-inspired beers since 2011. They've made collaboration beers with Mastodon, with Idols, with Slaves, with Sports Team recently, and you can go onto their website, signaturebrew.co.uk, and order there over lockdown straight to your door. And with the voucher code 101podcast, all capitals, you can get 10% off. All right, so here's Samuel Joseph from Hello Forever. I shared a snippet of this conversation on my Soho radio show, Modern Lovers. That's on every other Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Feel free to tune in. Have a great afternoon. Cheers! Sam, the first thing I thought when I got sent over the record in the bio was about how the band is kind of based on this forgotten piece of land and how you're practicing every day, 5 days a week. And I thought there's got to be a story there. So what was your journey that led to, living where you're living now?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a whole life of a journey that led to now. But the short journey was a long Craigslist search. We knew that we needed to be somewhere far away from other people so we could play music loudly and avoid distraction. And we looked pretty far and wide. It needed to generally be in Southern California because everybody was living around here. And when we found this spot, we drove up and it was just a miracle. It was perfectly close to where we needed it to be. And, the view is incredible, and it was somehow affordable too, which was just like incomprehensible to me because of what it is. And, yeah, we can actually see from here. I went to summer camp on Catalina Island, and it's where I wrote my first song, where I played guitar for the first time, and where I performed in front of people for the first time. And I can see the spot on the island where the camp is from the studio. So that was a big part of it too. And yeah, the history of this place is fascinating. The recent history, the older history of this place, like the rest of this country, is really tragic and unethical. How this land came to be a place where someone like me might be able to have a house.
Yeah.
So I guess it's hard to talk about the recent history and the nudist colony without thinking all the way back to how the nudists even came to acquire it. But that recent history is it was a special place here, and we like to think that it's still a special place.
How recent was it, the nudist colony?
I think that its last days were in the mid 80s. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's when it did. Its heyday was in the 70s, and that's when it started. There's actually a guy who's like the last living nudist, and he has a house here on the land. And I haven't milked all the stories out of him, but he's got them. And I don't know. I found recently a pamphlet from the nudist colony online, just a copy of it, and it had a schedule of all the programs weekly. And I guess I could look it up and tell you some of the names, but it's really far out stuff,
Yeah.
I think they weren't just naked. There was a lot of like um, bootleg intellectualism, if you will, around
Yeah.
nudity and conversations and ideology, and it sounds like it was a fun place. Looking at just the few people who were known to hang out here and what their lives were like outside of the nudist colony, like Sammy Davis Jr. was hanging out, and
Oh, right.
yeah, like politicians. I mean, politicians, you gotta take them or leave them. Um, but it seemed to attract all kinds of people, and that's interesting to me. I think a lot of people deep down want to be naked.
Yeah, I'd be up for it.
Yeah, I give it a try. I went to an art school where nudity was really permitted and encouraged. There was a lot of naked performance, so I think maybe that tied in a little bit too.
Well, this podcast's all about stories. I kind of want to mine stories of people's lives.
Cool.
And I mean, and your life does sound so fascinating. I mean, practicing 5 days a week, what's the kind of usual daily routine for you?
Well, that's altered slightly since the quarantine because, we can't play shows.
Right.
So now we're rehearsing 3 days a week, but 5 or 6 days a week in addition to rehearsing, or sometimes when we're not, we're working on a record, and we've been doing it basically since quarantine started at the beginning of April. So most days I get up, hopefully after sleeping 8 hours, but a lot of times we do really long sessions. They go like 14 hours on the record. So
really?
Yeah. And I kind of wake up in the morning now, no matter what. I used to be able to sleep a full 8 hours all the time, but I'll wake up. Usually the first thing that I do is a meditation practice, and it's brief, but it's consistent. So I'll do that, make a smoothie. Everybody's hanging out. The kitchen is a great hang in the morning. People getting ready. And
is it one big house that you live in?
Everybody's here in the house. It's pretty big, but we're also, we're a family, so we're living with it and on top of each other. And yeah, so that's how it goes. We go in the studio, and then we're there.
and the studio's on site round the corner, or?
Yeah, it's in a separate structure. It used to be the garage, but we converted it.
Great.
Yeah.
And was that the kind of plan that you envisioned for yourself? Kind of being the founder of the band. Was that something that you were looking for? The situation that you're in now.
Yeah, I didn't know that we would be able to achieve it so quickly. It was basically within a year of starting the group, we were able to put this together, and having a compound, if you will, and a community for the project was intention for the future. And we just found a way to put it together really, really quickly, and everybody supported and ratified around that vision. And it's a way of life for us, and being able to be fully immersed in the creative process and not have distractions and be together. And any moment we can just spontaneously start making something or singing together. It's really beautiful. Right.
And what kind of, speaking about distractions, what was going on in your life before this? Talk about, the last 5 years. What were kind of the biggest moments of the last 5 years? Did you have any other sort of careers or jobs or things that really were holding you?
Kind of. I was in school. I went to Cal Arts, and that was nearby. And when I finished school, I actually got a job, which was super odd, at Capitol Records, which was
wow.
Yeah, it was there was a little experimental department that consisted of myself, another friend from Cal Arts, and 2 bosses. And it was a machine learning project, essentially trying to create an algorithm to understand different musical features. The phase that we were working on was genre. So basically we would create quote unquote data sets, but it was just groups of recordings in the form of MP3s, and try to align them with certain musical properties, which then we would tag with a name, and the machine learning system would analyze it and try to ascertain the similar aspects of it and then codify that as a genre. With
Wow.
the end, yeah, kind of like the Music Genome Project essentially at Pandora, but they only
I
had
haven't heard of that.
Yeah, they only had 4 of us on it, and honestly, it felt sometimes like we were mostly there just to demonstrate like the future potential of the project. It didn't seem like we were ever going to be able to create what they were alleging we were creating. And
so, how did they sell it to you? How did they, what was that alleged role?
I mean, I was straight out of school, and I'd never worked in an office before, and I had 2 guys who worked in an office saying like, we have this project and we want to hire you. It was a huge blessing to get to be at Capitol, but yeah, it felt like my coworkers were unhappy, and nobody, a company that large and a project that was that weird, there was basically no oversight, because Capitol is owned by Universal, which is owned by Vivendi. And there's differing opinions about the major label system, but I have a lot of respect for the people who work there, having gone through that. But I was a little bit too weird, like they were always telling me like, Sam, it's not a tech company. Like you can't roll in at 10 or 11 a.m. and stay till 8 hours after that. Like we need you here first thing at 9. And I was like, sure, man. I was constantly like leaving on my skateboard to go to the juice bar, or like working barefoot out in the courtyard. And they were like, dude, please wear shoes and sit at your cubicle at all times. And I learned a lot, but it hit a point where I was like, okay, I need to go just make music. And after that, like I pretty much vowed to do music full time. And it took me 6 months from then, but I was able to get a publishing deal from Downtown, my publisher, who I'm super grateful to. So that freed me up to make music full time. There was a little bit of a dark period at the end of that where I did briefly have to get some odd jobs. There was like a farmer's market moment and trying to sell solar panels door to door moment. I never sold a single solar panel.
Wow.
And then after that, things with I hadn't really started this project yet when I had the publishing deal. I was just writing. And after the whole farmer's market solar panel thing, we started the project and stuff clicked. So I've been doing this.
When you talk about the publishing deal, I mean, actually, at first, talking about the job, that data tagging music and sounds so. You listen to whatever it is, and that's like the paradox, of something like that. Whatever it is just sounds so freeing. It sounds so natural. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's probably why I couldn't handle working on that for more than 4 months.
You have a record label, but the publisher came first, did it?
Yeah. Sometimes I really feel like I'm so blessed and privileged to be living the old LA dream of a musician, at least the last 5 years, like to be able to focus on it full time without having an audience. I feel like that's a really rare opportunity. And I'm so grateful to the people on my team who believed in the vision and supported it, basically just on the merit of demos that I had. I had never I'd recorded in a professional studio here and there over the years, but not on anything very good. So when I finally figured out my process and how to write from a more humble and open place. And that's when the music really started to come through.
Right.
I was just doing stuff on my laptop, and I probably had about 15, 20 laptop demos and
Wow.
had them around. And yeah, then publisher showed up, and it was such a miracle. I was like, how is this even real?
It seems to me like such a balance between having that thing where, you're writing, from your purest place, and then having that admin skill as well of emailing people, speaking to publishers, labels, whoever it may be. When you look back at that time, how are you kind of balancing the two?
Oh, I'm still balancing it. I'm like fully the entrepreneur CEO, on the phone, on the email. I got to be a boss in addition to being an artist, and it's a total
Right.
double life. I was just like explaining this to a friend yesterday, and in any given week, there's like 30 people on the team, or who, somebody like you who I'm talking to for press, or designers or videographers or whatever. There's so many people that I'm in communication with that make the project possible and who we're collaborating with. So that's a huge part of my life, and it's not necessarily what I signed up for. I wanted to make music full time so I could serve the songs and serve the people who are meant to hear them and be uplifted and transformed by them. And I try to take it with humility, that there's other aspects of the music business that I have to take on as part of that journey for the songs. It takes a lot of time. I'm sure you talk to a lot of artists, and we have amazing management now, and they're so helpful, and they do a lot of heavy lifting, but I still have to be in communication with so many people every week. And
right. And you're in control of your own future. Like, you may have all these great people on board, but you're still the one that's going to be the driving force.
Totally. And I think that's a new part of being an artist today, is like being a social media personality and being an entrepreneur. I think it's just been infused with the culture around it. Culture is holistic. So I think as time has gone on, capitalism and consumerism and corporatism has been infused into everyone's activities that used to be able to sit outside of it.
Right.
And I don't know, we could get into if that's good or bad. I think a lot of artists, I'm forgetting whose quote this is, but artists starting as early as like the late 70s and the 80s started to, in interviews, complain about how they used to be able to just make music, but now they also have to do music videos.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's compounded, and there's so many other things that we have to do. It would be nice to build to a place where I don't have to do anything other than the music again. Sometimes, especially last year when we were first building and we were trying to launch the project, and we didn't have a manager yet, and we didn't have a label yet, and we didn't have an agent yet, it felt like I would have more time to make music if I just had a day job,
Right. Right. Yeah.
I get to live my dream, and I get to make songs, and there's so many other hard things that somebody would do with their time, that people I know have to do with their time. People all over the world are doing with their time. So I don't get bogged down in it like, oh, screw this. Like, I want to just make music. Like, I try to be grateful for the opportunity that it represents.
Have you adjusted the way, or have you adjusted where you find your inspiration? Does it come from one place? Does it come from a a place inside of you that you can tap into?
Yeah, it's inside and it's beyond. Um, Whatever it is came from the joy of discovering my relationship to melody and my relationship to song and how to surrender to that power and allow it to express itself through me. And finding that vortex, finding that channel brought me great excitement, and it was euphoric. And so that was the feeling that came through. So a lot of the songs are really about the feeling of writing songs and
Right.
how spectacular it is. Now I've cleared through that, and the channel can go through other feelings and experiences. And I think the newer music, there's wounds that are zeitgeist wounds or personal wounds, and a space of tenderness that I'm getting in touch with and allowing to be expressed through the song. So yeah, it's this same channel but different program.
And writing songs for the next records. I read in an interview that you're writing songs for the upcoming albums, plural.
Yes.
You're quite a prolific songwriter, are you?
Yeah, I don't want to be presumptuous. I do write a lot of songs. This year, sadly, it's been slightly less so far than usual. Like typically, I'm doing 60 to 80 songs a year. Right now it's September. I probably hit like 30 to 35 so far. So, there's a chance it's going to be wild. We've been working on this record and I spent so much time on it. So that's probably part of it. And also just how disturbed the world is right now.
Right.
Makes it hard.
I also want, having released whatever it is in February, that must have been quite a thrill that, you're not resting on your laurels as such, but kind of, bathing in that for a bit.
Honestly, not really. We were already working on the new album part-time before that. And as soon as it was out, I was like, oh, thank God. Now I can go full deep on the new music.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, still writing. Going into this year, I had the second and third and fourth albums written, and I've probably written at least another album's worth of material this year. So
wow.
we got like, even if hopefully I don't, knock on wood, like even if I stopped writing now, like we could probably put out music for the next 8 years.
I hate to say it, but the CEO of Spotify, Daniel Ek, he came out with that quote a couple of months ago saying, no longer is it a time where bands can put out one album every couple of years. I paraphrase. I'm not sure if you read that, but does that affect you at all? Is that even something that's on your radar? Because I suppose it kind of has to, in a sense, right? If you're an entrepreneur in the music business,
Yeah. We're just starting, and I think our team and our label want to be strategic about how we release music, but I also think that everyone, once there's an audience there, we're all on the same page about putting stuff out at the pace at which we write and create it.
Right.
I'm very looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward at developing our process to support that, because that's what feels best, and we did that this year. Rough Trade empowered that. We recorded everything so hard, like end of May, beginning of June, and it was out in July.
Editor's note, I realised after this interview that I think he's talking about Everything Is So Hard, and I'm Feeling It, 2 singles that came out around this time.
Was it August? Maybe it was out in August. It was just like a month after we finished it, and I was like, this is this is how it should always be.
For real. That must have been really satisfying.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, if Spotify's listening, like we're down. So and it's the platform and we will give the music to the people.
Right. And so when you were touring a lot, were you writing away from home or writing away from the compound?
We were touring some, but not a lot. This year was like our big step into that. And obviously that was implausible and we had to change our plans. But yeah, we were supposed to do major festivals this year, and I think we would have been over there in the UK and Europe, and there were some opening slot like support tours that were coming together here in the States. And so yeah, we've never been on the road extensively enough, you know, because we started 2 years ago, and yeah, in that time we've mostly just been playing around LA. We did a short tour last year, and we went out of town the beginning of this year. We played at Sundance Film Festival.
Great. That sounds like it'd be perfect for you.
Yeah, that was amazing. Chris Doritas from KCRW got us booked on a show that he was hosting there. He's a really sweet dude. And yeah, we played. It was packed. Sundance is bizarre. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's like a total spectacle, alternate universe. It's like, I don't know, it's like being inside of a movie. Everybody is on display 24/7. The outfits are over the top. I don't know. Yeah. It's like,
did you fit in? Did you feel like you fit in?
No, I didn't realize that it wasn't just an arts festival, but that it was like a convention. You know, people are constantly networking, and like every interaction is weighing each person's social capital, and like you can benefit or you can lose. It's a little bit ruthless. But then, you know, you see people whose work you love, or actually got shoved by Hillary Clinton's Secret Service while I was on the sidewalk, which was pretty wild.
Excuse me. You'll have to say that one.
So basically, you know, we've been walking around. I just got some food, and this was maybe 5 minutes before Kobe Bryant died also. So it was just like a weird pop culture vortex moment. And I was about to cross the street, and you know, the whole town of Sundance, it's just like, it's basically like an adult Disneyland. You know, it's a very integrated, walkable urban infrastructure, and it's very compact. So everywhere you go is basically public space. But all of a sudden, the corner I was crossing on gets locked down by the police. And everybody like has to stand in place, and they won't let anybody cross. And I'm like, what's going on? And I look to my left, and Hillary Clinton's right there. And, you know, she does have a pretty sordid history and involved in war crimes and all kinds of human rights issues with any world leader, you know. But there's like also like the tiny kid inside of me who's conditioned to be like First Lady, fucking, you know, Secretary of State. What was her position? I think she was Secretary of State. I need to look this up. I sound like such a fool right now. Whatever. You know, she's been in the government for a long time.
Right, of course.
Yeah, she's Secretary of State. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, anyway. I just instinctively like turn and I'm like, oh my God, Hillary. And I wish I had something in my head. You know, I wish I had something to say that was like holding her accountable for all the injustice that she's responsible for. But I literally just like froze up, and I was like, oh my God, Hillary, hi. And I took a step towards her, which if you're ever around a world leader, like, word to the wise, don't take a step towards them, even if you're just trying to like say hi or shake their hand. Because out of nowhere, this dude, and he was actually like quite a bit shorter than me, but he was packing power, and he just elbowed me in the gut like as hard as he could. And he was wearing like a trench coat and sunglasses and shit. And he just shoved me back, and I was like, "Whoa, all right,
Wow.
don't make that move." And then I go. It was so surreal. So that happened, and I get on my phone to like text the band and be like, "You guys, I just got shoved by Hillary Clinton's Secret Service. I hope they're not following me to my car." Uh, and then they're like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Kobe Bryant's dead." And then I turn around and, it's Sundance, so everybody's on their Twitter constantly, and it was just like on a dime, like every single person on the street all around me was talking about Kobe and texting about Kobe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not that big into celebrities and pop culture, but Kobe's somebody who was a hero to our whole city growing up, and like I think it's powerful the way that he inspired people to greatness and inspired people to pursue their passions. And he was so great at what he did, and he's I think he's a humanitarian, and
It shook the world, that news.
Yeah, I never had checked in with a celebrity's death like that, and it was actually sad in a big way. I think also because of his daughter too. She's like so young, and all the other people.
Yeah.
It's just like really hurts. Kicked off 2020.
How, as someone from London, hearing about Los Angeles is you hear about that kind of 24/7 kind of celebrity thing going on. Everything's kind of shiny. What was it like growing up there? Like, how did it kind of shape you?
I want to say it didn't, but like I said earlier, like culture is holistic. You can't really look at one trait without the context of everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
Within a culture and within a society. Yeah. So I'm sure that it did. I'm pursuing a life in the arts. I've always believed unwaveringly in the possibility of that. The way that we're pursuing art, I could go be a professor and try to get grants and do music full time that way. But the way I'm doing it is by releasing music to the public. And I guess that would involve, even the small way we are right now, being a public figure. So I think that is clearly from the culture of Los Angeles. Other things that influenced me here, I grew up in the South Bay, near the beach. And, there's a lot of seminal punk music that came out of there. Black Flag came out of there. SST Records, that whole thing down there. Pennywise, countless others. So I think that I was really integrated into that kind of ethos and that approach and that mentality. Like, this idea that you can have a band on your own terms and do that was just, it was presumed, it's not something I ever questioned, because I just knew so many people who were in bands, and it didn't matter if you were famous or successful or anything, people just really believed in that as a lifestyle. So I think that was the big thing that I inherited about culture. Punk is overtly political, and
of course, yeah.
It was protesting political conservatism, but I think the spirit of the teenage experience that led to those groups, especially here, it was more about the way that the young people are controlled, and looking for sovereignty, looking for agency, getting, there's people talk about the school to prison pipeline. And that's not necessarily something that the white people in punk bands had to deal with in a direct way. But, people feel imprisoned by school and the way that it's run here. And I think the spirit of punk rock coming out in teenagers, it comes from that place. It comes from, I think there's a cognitive dissonance and a phenomenological collapse of being told as a young person that you must obey. And that is like, when I say like a ubiquitous conservatism, like beyond politics, right? It's like that idea that you must be obedient or be punished or be exiled.
Yeah.
And
Right.
There's so many topics in punk music. I don't want to generalize, but I think that is like a source node of that angst and that rebellion. It's just like, we're being who we are, right? And you're not in control of that.
My favorite records are so empowering in that sense. They're liberating. When I think of American Beauty, I think this doesn't feel like anything else. This feels really actually quite freeing, despite the amount of years between my age and that release date.
Totally.
And you do get that vibe on whatever it is as well. It has this empowering, liberation.
Thanks. Yeah, that's where we came from. I'm glad it's still in the music, because that's what it feels. That's what it feels like. We have to do it on our terms.
Well, Samuel, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I had a great time.
So for the next, couple of months, do you have a record? Do you have a date for when you want to start making the record? The next one,
the third one,
the second one.
Oh, the second one's almost done.
Oh, right, brilliant.
Yeah. So we've been working on the second one. It's almost done. The third one, I have the track list together, and we've already demoed all the songs.
Great.
So, hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be done with the second one end of October. And
giving yourself space and looking more objectively, if you've been able to, at whatever it is, has that given you a kind of perspective on the second one that is a new perspective?
Yeah, I guess so. I try not to bring critical judgment into the artistic process, but I think in subtle ways, just striving to serve better, striving to be truer in the songwriting and truer to the songs in the recording process. And we were talking about Kobe earlier. I think something that I learned from sports figures and has actually been affirmed in me because of learning about them. I think it was something that you want to be humble, right? But I think I also want to strive for greatness. As just I don't know, greatness is so arbitrary, but just as like an ideal. And I think that whatever is awesome, but I want to make a better record, every record that we make forever. So yeah, I just have that as a benchmark, and like, how do we grow beyond it?
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. This is great getting to meet you, and hopefully we'll be over there playing shows and we can have you out before too long. Yeah,
that'd be amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sweet. John. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Be well.
So that was Samuel Joseph of Hello Forever. Their debut record, whatever it is out now on Rough Trade. Go ahead and find that. Keiran Manetta-Jones edited this episode. Please go ahead and follow 101 Part-Time Jobs on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you liked this episode, please share it around there. Cheers. Here's Sparrer.
I've been working all day for me mate on the side, running around like a blue-ass fly. I've been working all day for me mate. Every bleeding minute I've been on the go, up and down the ladder like a fiddler's elbow. I've been working all day for me mate.
This is a Mighty Moon Media podcast.